Ryan, you have a new piece. Jared Kushner's real estate firm sought money directly from the Qatar government weeks before the blockade. He co-wrote it with Clayton Swisher. Tell us about this meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an ethicist, but I don't know if you're supposed to be doing this. The funny thing is that when people have conflicts of interest in their own lives, people, they go to great lengths to avoid even the appearance of anything being untoward. It's kind of a bedrock part of the ethical norms that we have in this country. But here's what happened in this case. Jared Kushner, when he was about 26, decided to spend well over $1 billion to buy the most expensive building in Manhattan history in 2007, when anybody paying even the closest bit of attention to real estate knew we were at the peak of a bubble. It was probably 50% overpriced, even when it was purchased. Then when the bottom falls out from the market, it's way worse. And so because everything in real estate is cross-collateralized, if that goes down, it threatens the entire rest of the Kushner empire.
Right.
The way he bought it was with this 10-year arm and had a balloon payment coming right around now. And so he has spent the last couple of years, crisscrossing the globe, trying to find somebody who would bail out this project. And there aren't many people at this level that can play. You're talking the Chinese, people in the Gulf, Russians. And that's kind of mostly it. Maybe Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
Or Singapore could play in something like that.
Maybe Chapo.
But,
maybe El Chapo.
Yeah.
There's some could be some
Well,
cartel money.
Actually, Carlos Slim is certainly a possibility. There was this report recently that there were officials in 4 countries were talking about ways that they could use his financial distress to leverage him, and one of them was Mexico, and maybe that was Slim or some other oligarch down there.
Right. So they're scouring the globe looking for this money to save themselves from it. Now, was Dad in jail when he made this deal? Like, what he didn't have the adult supervision. He had just gotten out, so there wasn't any adult supervision for this.
Well, he had gotten out, so
okay.
He was under his own form of supervision. So I don't know how much he was supervising Jared. Okay. But Jared, he sold thousands of low-income properties in New Jersey in order to get the money to switch into Manhattan real estate because, he wanted to be taken seriously among the New York social world. And you don't do that by being a slumlord in Jersey. You do that by owning big buildings in Manhattan.
You do that by flipping your slums to
right.
buy a big building. Yeah, so there is the Trump parallel is definitely there. So, including like the more effectively sleazy slumlord dad.
Right.
When do these meetings take place, and who are they talking with in the Qatari government specifically, and
right.
What are they looking for?
So this is the week of April 24th. The Qatari Minister of Finance came to New York and set up shop at St. Regis to take meetings. The government runs a sovereign wealth fund, which is the second biggest wealth fund in the world. Mm-hmm. And so he's taking a lot of different meetings. And one of the meetings he took was with Kushner Companies, and specifically with Charles Kushner, who is Jared's father, to pitch him. And he said, my people will follow up. And the next day, a bunch of them went to the property itself, 666 Fifth Avenue, to continue the conversation, which ultimately fell through.
And did he have any sense of why it fell through? Like, why did they back off of it? Was it because they couldn't get other investors involved, or was it just it didn't seem? Do you have a sense of why the Qataris backed off of it?
It was a terrible deal. It had bottomed out so badly that it was so underwater that the Kushners would have, if you're going to do it as a straight commercial transaction, Kushners were left with basically no equity left in the property, which would mean that their entire investment would be wiped out, and which could wipe them out. And so those are not the terms that Kushners wanted. Kushners wanted to make their money back, and the Qataris just saw it as kind of a loser. There had been an earlier bid to the former prime minister of Qatar where he said, "I'll give you $500 million if you can get the rest of the financing elsewhere." And so that fell apart when they couldn't get the rest of the financing elsewhere. This one, the numbers were just not adding up.
And so, okay, so we have this, this obvious, deeply ethically challenged situation where they're searching for this deal, they're searching for this loan, while Kushner's in the White House, and these obviously all this kind of landmine potential conflicts of interest. And what's weird about this and what's revealing is that the deal is so bad that the Qataris or the Qataris are basically, they're not even thinking to themselves, let's take one for the team. Like, because you can imagine a scenario where they say, look, we'll eat something on a bad deal, but that will buy us all sorts of access and influence to these people, because they're sort of they're embarrassingly transactional to the point that this meeting is even happening, right? So let's go do this deal. They don't, because it's so bad. And then which is amazing. I mean, I just think like that's
got to be really bad.
It's got to be really bad, because you would think to yourself, wow, these people are so unbelievably easy to manipulate, and we literally sit on oil and have this sort of, incredibly lucrative sovereign wealth fund. Why don't we just, what the hell? It's never a terrible thing to own New York real estate. We could chop it up or figure it out in the long run, and then we own and have a piece of this administration and this family. They still reject it. Now we get to, instead of responding in kind, where you might think of like, okay, well, and even with other administrations, this is on the level more of like, well, now, I don't know, there'll be some type of negotiation on our base there that the Qataris won't like. There'll be some way of punishing them that is discreet and they won't like. Somehow, a couple of weeks later, this gets turned into the Saudis and the Emirates, the United Arab Emirates, under clear sort of Saudi leadership, it's driven by the Saudis, are going to put the Qataris under a blockade and essentially threaten military action, have all sorts of demands about doing things like shutting down Al Jazeera. And then the United States is going to, or the Trump people specifically, under Kushner's guidance, is going to back them. So their response to not saving them from their embarrassing investment isn't like, well, we're not going to give you preferential trade treatment or something. It's we're going to back a full-blown Gulf crisis.
Yes. It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Is that deal still on the table?
Right.
Yeah, yes. I think that was definitely part of the thinking. Yes, it would be nice to have better relations with the Trump administration, but we have decent enough relations with them. We've got thousands of American soldiers on our on an air base here in Qatar. So we're doing okay, and I'm sure there'll be another deal that we could do that isn't this awful. But it was perfect diplomatic storm for them in the sense that as he was becoming colder with the Qataris, he was becoming much warmer with both Mohammed bin Salman and bin Zayed over in the UAE.
What are the implications of that? I mean, is there potential deals? I mean, are the UAE or the Saudis?
So let's wait to see. But there is already talk that the Kushners are buying Vornado out of their half of the 666 property, which would suggest that they got their money. Mm-hmm. So I would expect that we will find out who ponied up, and whoever it is going to be an interesting story behind it.
It's also going to be an interesting story to find out who was it inside the Qatari or Qatari foreign policy making apparatus that really thought that they could deal with people like Kushners and the Trumps with anything like not complete transactionality, right? Like, what the hell were you
Right.
thinking? That like these guys are going to have some type of serious long-term interest in stability in the
Yeah.
Gulf?
I mean, in their defense, this is the most brazen and unprecedented thing that's been done in
Right.
American foreign policy. If this is actually what happened,
Well, as Trump would maybe
so
I can imagine Trump saying, "Yet."
right,
Right.
yes,
We still have at least a couple of years. I would be totally satisfied to cut a deal. If a Democratic candidate wants to appeal to me in 2020, I need Medicare for all. I need a complete reversal of the tax giveaways, and I would totally be down for some type of deportation deal with the Kushners to the Qataris. I would be down with that. Like as a gesture of goodwill and our basing agreements, we just dump the family on the
ouch,
tarmac.
ouch. Is that Ivanka too?
Oh yeah, of course.
Uh,
I never bought
yeah,
into
well,
this.
you don't want to break up families.
No, exactly. I'm not. I don't think they would either. I think they have a very pro-family government in Qatar.
Pro royal family.
Yeah,
yes.
well, exactly, right.